Blazing Rants are a segment where I discuss topics related to the subject of video games and/or anime. It contains my raw biased opinion and is created for the purpose of your debate, examination, or discussion. Now that that's cleared up, let's begin.
Well, it certainly took them long enough. As of April 2nd, 2025, the Nintendo Switch 2 was fully unveiled to the world. This direct overloaded the public with waves of information, and naturally, everyone's got their own 2 cents about this new toy. I figured, just like 8 years ago, good lord I'm getting old, I shall sift through this entire presentation and give you my perspective on the showcase, ultimately coming to the conclusion as to whether or not I think the Nintendo Switch 2 is currently worth the purchase. Please bear in mind, I'm tangentially basing my summary off what was exhibited during the Direct. I am aware that a multitude of sources have seen fit to broadcast supplementary information, and I will refer to them when applicable. Furthermore, you're more than welcome to update me in the comments regarding details I may potentially miss, for it's always good to see the full picture. I shall initially analyze the system itself before addressing the games. Aesthetically speaking, I feel the Switch 2 looks good. It's a simple upgrade, but I can vibe with the larger screen, bigger Joy-Cons, and smoother edges. Plus, having magnetic grips and larger shoulder buttons is a most welcome alteration. I do hope Nintendo will put forth various colors and designs for the system and controllers in the future, for I always admire just how creative and colorful the Switch could look, and the big end has a history of snazzy console skins. The Joy-Cons took up a large portion of the unveiling, as Nintendo seemed to be very proud of the controller's ability to be used like a traditional PC mouse. This had been rumored for a while, and on paper, it sounds amazing. But I'm a level with y'all. Every demonstration I witnessed came off as clunky and unintuitive. Granted, it might be a different situation with hands-on experience, and I could easily envision a game like WarioWare making great use out of them. As the situation stands, I have yet to notice any software that makes this function feel seamless. I'm also not vibing with Nintendo Game Chat, for though this feature is perfectly fine, Nintendo's far too late to the party. The Xbox 360 and PS3 had this figured out 20 years ago. Plus, I wager the majority of players would find it more practical to use apps like Discord for voice and video chat. Doubly so since Nintendo's service isn't free, making this feature overall fine but rather redundant. The same superfluousness applies to the camera, which I'm certain some people will get good use out of, but it's not for me. Game Share amounted to a curiously brief segment, but one I thought to be rather neat. It reminded me of DS Download Play, and while currently the software selection is limited, I feel it to be a quaint application where friends and family members can sample games together. They also made it clear that the Switch 2 will not be compatible with regular microSD cards, only the Express variants are applicable. Some folks in my inner circle aren't happy about this, for many of their Switch games are saved onto an SD card. But I believe there is a way to transfer the data to a new system. I'm honestly shooting blanks regarding this segment, so if y'all could clarify the specifics, that would be most splendid. While data is the topic of discussion, Nintendo confirmed that the Switch 2 will have a base memory of 256GB, 8 times as much as the original Switch. I'm admittedly torn on such an announcement. From the very start, I was disgusted with how little memory space the Nintendo Switch had. Thus, I'm relieved that we are granted vastly more initial storage. However, given how excessively large game file sizes are becoming, paired with the fact that Sony and Microsoft tend to start at 500GB, I believe the Switch 2 should have also had a 500GB hard drive. A counterpoint to my concern is that Nintendo are consistently good at making their game file sizes rather small, so we'll have to just wait and see. I apologize for being insipidly negative about the Switch 2 so far, but on a more positive note, I'm delighted that the Switch 2 offers 4K resolution and higher FPS even when undocked. I've never been a graphics whore, but I always appreciate a good-looking game that runs smoothly. While the base Switch certainly has some stellar-looking titles such as Metroid Prime Remastered and the Xenoblade games, this system chugged like a motherfucker even on a good day, and the less said about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet the better. Being able to play games at much higher resolutions and stable frame rates is long overdue, and I'm overjoyed at such a prospect. In fact, Nintendo brought mention to a number of Switch titles which shall receive enhancements when played on the new system. Currently, 6 Nintendo Switch games will receive Switch 2 exclusive upgrades. The concept radiates significant merit, but unless you already own the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass, these upgrades aren't free, with prices that currently aren't listed. Fingers crossed it's no more than $10. Now, I'm not against paying a small fee for a better performance and new content. My concern lies in that these improvements aren't made equally. For example, Mario Party and Kirby get better performance and new modes/levels, while Pokemon and Zelda only receive higher frame rates and some very minor quality of life features. I shall require more concrete information before solidifying my opinion. For real though, I would happily give both my kidneys to play Prime 4 in 4K. Fuck me, it looks so good! That covers the system itself, and overall, I'm cool with it. Some of the new features don't look particularly appealing to me or have been executed better elsewhere, though the improved performance and greater storage thankfully resolve some of the predecessor's biggest issues. Before moving on, I must address the fact that we were not shown any demonstration of the Switch 2 menu screen or the Nintendo eShop. This has me worried, for the Switch's menu, while functional, I find to be very boring and lacks the charm of the 3DS and Wii U interfaces radiated. Plus, the eShop has been pathetic since day one. Thus, I'm hoping Nintendo will address some of these concerns and showcase both applications in the near future. Now we shall shift gears into software, starting with Mario Kart World. You honestly can't go wrong with Mario Kart, and we already knew about 24 races on the track, yet they somehow managed to still wow me with the new courses which look incredible. Being able to change costumes during the race is pretty radical, plus some of the new mechanics like grinding on rails and other surfaces complements the now open-ended approach to racing. I can't wait to witness what kind of shortcuts and other exploits players can come up with. The speedrunners are gonna lose their shit! The next first-party demonstration was Welcome Tour. Based on what was presented, I got the impression that this was meant to be an interactive demo, one that simultaneously conveys vital information about the Switch 2, with several mini-games that establish what can be performed with the system and Joy-Cons. Personally speaking, I'm cool with having tech demos of sorts to allow players to understand the hardware. It worked wonders for Wii Sports. Welcome Tour being a digital-only purchase has me worried, for it feels like there isn't enough content to warrant it being a standalone title. I said the same thing with 1-2 Switch, and unless the former is rather inexpensive, I don't see myself paying a premium for a sampler. After that, there was Drag X Drive, a sports game that was based around using the Joy-Cons in a Rocket League-style 3v3 competition. I think the game looks solid, but as I previously mentioned, the Joy-Con mouse function remains awkward, thus I would require hands-on experience before having any legitimate interest. After these proof of concepts had their time to shine, the third-party developers did a substantial convocation of all the titles coming to the Switch 2. Generally speaking, my overall opinion is mixed, for I observed most of the offerings to be ports, which is a little lame if you own other systems. But with that said, these are some pretty fucking amazing ports. They began with Elden Ring, which is one of the best games in recent years. We now have Street Fighter 6 on the Switch 2 with Amiibo support. One of the greatest 3DS games, Bravely Default, is getting a remaster. Daemon X Machina received a sequel. They dropped Hades 2. There was a brief Hollow Knight Silksong showcase. Split Fiction and Hogwarts Legacy are arriving on this handheld. Yakuza 0 is about to make a name for itself. The Switch 2 is strong enough to run Cyberpunk and the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Sweet lord, that is a great lineup, even if most of these games are relatively old. In between this third-party promenade, Nintendo gave us a look at Age of Imprisonment, the next game in the Hyrule Warriors sub-series. Now I loved the first Hyrule Warriors, but skipped Age of Calamity since I didn't vibe with Breath of the Wild. Currently, I have yet to play Tears of the Kingdom, thus I shall not concern myself with Imprisonment for now. Up until this point, I felt the Switch 2 Direct had been good, but nothing jaw-dropping. So, leave it to Nintendo to get the hype train chugging once again, for GameCube games were added to the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass, exclusively for the Switch 2. I dreamed of this announcement for years. Though the GameCube may not be my favorite Nintendo system, it was home to so many fantastic titles, many of which never got re-released, and due to low sales, the majority of exclusives are very expensive. Having access to such a rare digital library is truly magnificent. In terms of offerings, while the Wii U version is better, Wind Waker remains a great game. Soul Calibur 2 is one of, if not the best fighting games of all time, and this is the peak version thanks to the inclusion of Link. And finally, F-Zero GX is fast-paced racing action at its finest, and now we can play it online, which is nuts, provided the netcode isn't dog shit. The cherry on top of this lunchbox is the fact that we're getting Chibi Robo, both Pokemon Colosseum and XD, as well as Fire Emblem Path of Radiance among other titles. If anyone watching this video plans on purchasing a Switch 2, I highly recommend procuring the expansion pass for access to these fantastic titles. Once the hype died down, more third-party offerings were put forth, and the final game of this segment was Duskblood, developed by FromSoftware. Currently, nothing is confirmed, but many people wager this to be a spiritual successor to Bloodborne, one of the best games of all time. If this ends up being correct, I think we may have a potential system seller on our hands. The last two games of the Direct were offerings from Nintendo, the first being Kirby Air Riders. Now, I never played Air Ride on the GameCube, but I knew it boasted a strong cult following and was considered a hidden gem. I think this could be a wonderful alternative to Mario Kart and another feather in Kirby's cap, doubly so since Sakurai himself is directing. The final game Nintendo gifted to us was Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've said for a long ass time that we needed a new Donkey Kong game since Tropical Freeze was incredible. But for the big ape to get another 3D platformer 25 years after DK64, this shit is nuts! Plus the adventure gives off serious Mario Odyssey vibes, which is a win-win on every front. And so concludes the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Overall, I thought it was a great presentation, not the best one I've ever seen, but it divulged vast amounts of information with a surplus of spectacular announcements. That does beg the question though, will I get the Switch 2? Well, I'm almost convinced to get the system. In terms of the console itself, it's good. I'm not fussed about the game chat, camera, Joy-Cons and so on, but I can still play games on and off the TV like before, plus being docked at 4K and better performance across the board is a huge win in my book. The extra memory space is much needed, and I'm curious about the Switch 2 exclusive upgrades. As far as software is concerned, that's where I'm a little iffy. For personally, I feel the Switch 2 currently doesn't contain enough new games for me to purchase the system at launch. I stand by the initial software lineup being exceptional. Elden Ring and Street Fighter 6 alone are a win, plus GameCube Switch Online speaks for itself. There are furthermore a number of exciting new titles like Duskblood and Donkey Kong, but none of those games are releasing when the Switch 2 goes live. I already own the likes of Elden Ring on other systems, and though I love Mario Kart, I'm not dropping over £400 just to play it day one. And well, I might as well address the colossal elephant in the room concerning the pre-launch price of the system and games. Let's be real here peeps, gaming ain't cheap. Never has been, never will be. But the Switch 2's upfront cost seems to be all over the place due to how regional economics and tariffs work. I myself am based in the UK, and currently the Switch is listed at £395, $430 if you get the bundle with Mario Kart World. From the start, I had a feeling the Switch 2 would be around £400, but when looking at how much Nintendo is charging for most of the games and other accessories, it's starting to raise a bunch of red flags, and places like the US have it worse with the tariffs that are being put in place. For as great as the Switch was, during that generation, Nintendo did become noticeably more money hungry, and these current prices seem to be a combination of said greed. Now I completely understand that the world economy has been shit for a while now, and game development is becoming increasingly expensive. Yet these prices for the Switch 2 and all that's associated with it do seem to be a bit much considering what is currently being offered. Once the system receives another exceptional new exclusive, then I'm defo sold. Give me the FE4 remake and I'll buy 20 of them. For now, I'm happy to wait till there's at least a Prime 4 bundle. I truly believe that the Switch 2 is fixing many of its predecessor's flaws. The hardware looks better put together, so hopefully no Joy-Con drift, we can run games properly and are receiving some truly excellent AAA titles. GameCube's coming back, and even old Switch games have been granted a boost. Nintendo has almost got it, but the price of the system and its games, the otherwise unimpressive gimmicks and voice chat, plus the lack of information regarding the UI, makes it so that I'm not quite ready to dock the OG Switch permanently.
Thank you all for watching today. I hope you had a great time and enjoyed the video. Also, please excuse the sound of my voice, I'm currently recovering from a cold. Let me know what y'all thought in the comments. How do you feel about the Switch 2 and all that was showcased during the Direct? And is there any info that I missed that is vital to certain aspects of the system and games? Please be sure to fill me in, I'd really appreciate being up to date with everything. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe as well. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter and Discord, and also be sure to support me on Patreon in order to make these videos possible and receive extra benefits for doing so. And on that note, I'd like to say an enormous thank you to all my patrons who help make all these videos possible. I really appreciate all the support, especially with all the overtime I've been having to do elsewhere. And, what did all of you think of the Switch 2? I know because of certain things with the pricing, some of you based in Canada and stuff, it's been an iffy situation, but also with the GameCube Online, I know some of you were very happy about that. Let me all know what you thought about the Switch 2. I think it would be great, and thank you all so much for helping to make these videos possible. I know it's getting harder and harder with everything going on, but the fact that you're still here and just going out of your way to help this one dude follow his passions and do what he loves, thank you all. I can't even begin to describe how much you all mean to me. Thank you all so much. I'm sorry that my voice doesn't convey that much love and emotion that well. That's what illness does to you. But I seriously do love you all. Mwah! And I would like to say a very special thank you to Wolfox, Lucina21, Jeremy Redinger, Glentrog750, Chaos Saberlie, VC Videos 100, Starship 9, Maggie Fall, Isaac A. Flores, Veronin8392, Daniel Hodgson, and finally, Zenny Dragon. Thank you all so much. Y'all are the absolute best, and I absolutely love you all from the bottom of my heart. Mwah! Thank you. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you all next time.